What's up, everyone? Today is January 10th of 2025. In today's video, we're going to take things a little bit easier than normal. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the ongoing wildfires in Southern California, which have turned into the most destructive wildfires in the history of California, at least by dollar amount. And what I want to talk about is how this ring of fire is currently surrounding Los Angeles, and how the fires started on a date that's very significant to the Johnny Cash song, Ring of Fire. Now, also in this video, we'll be looking at the Gematria and numerology that connects this huge news story to the upcoming Super Bowl being played in Louisiana. Louisiana, a state whose postal abbreviation is LA. And now we have the LA wildfires. So we're going to take a look at this story about Johnny Cash because back in 1965, 2 years after the release of Ring of Fire, Johnny Cash was involved in starting a brush fire just northwest of Los Angeles. This burned over 500 acres, was a large fire. I think it was called the Adobe Fire, as this AI overview on Google reveals. And I don't recommend using Google AI too often, but they did get it right on this one. And what I want to do is talk about how this connects to the NFL. And we'll be taking a look at some of my spreadsheets that I developed for the playoffs that really drill down into all of the team records. Because what I noticed is that there's a very alarming riddle connected to the number 606. You may recall that the Bears lost a couple of weeks ago, and Chicago, which is home to the 60606 area code, that city is currently sitting on 666 losses. So we'll talk about that and how I think maybe the playoffs will play out. And as always on this channel, all predictions wrong or your money back. You know, as a reminder, anyone who wishes to put money on these games, you are putting yourself at risk in doing so. And yes, numbers can help you arrive at the winner, but as you will see, there is a highly convoluted riddle going into this Super Bowl, and I definitely have a favorite, but we'll see if I actually make a real pick or not. So we'll talk about the Philadelphia Eagles out of the NFC, and then from the AFC, we got the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens, all with intriguing riddles. Now, before we get to the football part, I just want to talk about the numerology connecting Johnny Cash to this week's disaster in Los Angeles. Notice how Los Padres National Forest, which is where the fire that Johnny Cash caused occurred, has matching gematria 1322 and 125 with Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire. A quick little bit of history. This song is probably the most identifiable song with Johnny Cash. I know that's certainly the case for me. When I think of this guy, it's the first song that pops in my head. Now, it was originally released as a single on April 19th of 1963. 3 months later, Johnny Cash named his Best Of compilation album after this very track. So this gives more credence to the fact that this is the most identifiable song with Johnny Cash. Shout out to all those who said hello in the chat early on. I am going to try and keep an eye on the chat because I don't really have much of a script for this video. I'm just going to go over a number of things that I found were pretty interesting in regards to the NFL riddles with the fires. Measuring from the date Johnny Cash died, which was the date September 12th, back in 2003, from that date to January 7th, when the LA fires kicked off in Pacific Palisades, this was 117 days after the anniversary of Johnny's death. And 117 is the ordinal gematria of his stage name, Johnny Cash. If you include the end date, he would have been 118 days after his death date. Well, 118 is the Gematria of Los Angeles, California, which is also the meridian that it sits on, the 118th meridian. Of course, the 118th prime also syncs up 647. Los Angeles, California fire equals 647. And, well, it's already too late. You did distract me in the chat, so just throwing that out there. I kid, of course. Now, in addition to this intriguing alignment with Johnny Cash and Los Angeles, California, I want you to also consider the date, January 7th, when this all started going down. January 7th is, of course, written as 107 here in the United States. This is like the number 107. And in the alphabetic order, Ring of Fire equals 107. Also note the 71 in reduction, as this date can also be written 7/1, as it is overseas. Ring of Fire, the single, was released 10 months and 7 days before Johnny Cash's birthday. And 107 is a number I mentioned in my first video on the fire, which began at Piedra Morada Drive in Pacific Palisades, Los Angeles. Los Angeles, California also shares the same 107 Gematria. And consider that this year's Super Bowl on February 9th falls 17 days before Johnny Cash's date of birth, February 26th, an intriguing date that we will look at again shortly. Now, remember, the wildfires... Excuse me here while I pull up my first post on this. The number 17 was of great focus because these fires broke out exactly 17 months after the wildfires in Maui. And in reduction, Maui equals 17. The fire started near Topanga Canyon, and the night before it started, Topanga from Boy Meets World, actress Danielle Fishel, was on WWE Raw on Netflix and even did a segment with The New Day. She was 17 weeks before her birthday when the fire started and for her appearance on Raw. This all connects to the date January 7th. Her next birthday also with 17 numerology. The fire even started on a 17 date as well. If you plug in 1/7/2025, we also get 17 numerology. It was the Santa Ana winds, which equals 17. Just a huge number here. And remember, 17 and 59, part of the kill code. And no doubt lives were lost in this blaze. I would be highly skeptical of the number of deaths they give you, however. And one of the reasons is this. I made a post on X just the other day. Or maybe I made this post on YouTube. That must be where it is. And what I pointed out in this post... I'll just bear with me here. Okay. So, yesterday I was watching the authorities discuss the Los Angeles fire and their brutal incompetence. And I heard that they announced a new death. You know, the death total was 5 for well over 24 hours. I believe this has something to do with the fact that 5 is the number of doors the Catholic Church recently opened, with the 5th door opening on the 5th day of the year. But then they announced a new death, and they said it happened at 15300 West Friends Street. And I thought, no way, Friends? Because if you saw my first video on the wildfire, you would know that this was all synced up to Friends actor Matthew Perry, who died in Pacific Palisades, where this blaze occurred a year before. And as far as the number 153, well, that's the ordinal gematria of Jim Morrison. Matthew Perry and Jim Morrison both dying in tubs of water. Matthew Perry's stepfather's name is Morrison. And then Morrison dies in Paris or Paris, much like the name Matthew Perry. And Perry's death was just short of the Paris Olympics. And now we had the fire at Notre Dame in 2019. Notre Dame reopens in December, and then a month later we get the fires in LA, which is the next city to host the Olympics. It's quite incredible stuff. It certainly is design, and just to answer the question in the chat, there's a very, very, very good chance that these disasters are being orchestrated at a high level. I mean, why do you think there was no water pressure for these fires? Have they not had hundreds of years to get ready for wildfires, especially knowing that they had been experiencing a drought? So the way I see it, this is shedding light on darkness and evil in this world. And, you know, the Bible says the war is not against flesh and blood, but essentially the spirits of our realm. And maybe that's true as well. But either way, the more awareness we have, the less confusing this all becomes. And confusion creates fear. That's really what they're depending on. So back to the number 17, as the 17th prime number is 59, and this was a big number because Pacific Palisades, California, has that 590 gematria. Remember, Matthew Perry went to school with Justin Trudeau, who just so happened to resign one day before the fires. Trudeau has the 590, just like Boy Meets World and Fischl. But how about the fact that Johnny Cash's birth name, J.R. Cash, also gives us this 59. So does Super Bowl 59 in reduction when you write it out. But so does the city of Calabasas. Notice how Calabasas equals 59. Now, on my channel, in addition to the wildfires, we've also been focusing on a wealth of plane crashes recently. And as usual, when it comes to plane crashes, we're often talking about numerology connected to Kobe Bryant, who I even put in a couple of these thumbnails from the past couple of weeks. Calabasas is where Kobe Bryant's helicopter crashed back in 2020, just outside of Los Angeles. And wouldn't you know, 2 days after the fire in Pacific Palisades broke out, there was another wildfire that broke out called the Kenneth Fire, and it threatened the city of Calabasas. People who live in Calabasas had to evacuate because of these flames. And I thought it was interesting that they pointed out it was 960 acres, which is still the number that many outlets are reporting today, a day later. And how interesting that the number 96 is the ordinal gematria of Johnny Cash's new full name. John R. Cash equals 96. In the year 96, the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, was born. Josh Allen equals 96 ordinal. And you will see how this Kenneth Fire is a riddle for the Buffalo Bills. First of all, the Kenneth Fire began on the date 1/9 of 25, which represents the digits 1925. Using the square number cipher of Gematria, which multiplies every number by itself before adding it to the equation, the name Kobe Bryant equals 1925, which reflect the same 4 digits in the date that the fire near Calabasas began. Now, as we will discover throughout this video, The 666, the number of the beast, is truly the ultimate number of Kobe Bryant, and I don't know if there's a celebrity more closely intertwined with this number. This fire in Calabasas was 66 lunar orbits and 6 days after Kobe's death. Now, Kobe Bean Bryant is connected to this number of the beast for a very good reason. Notice how his name has Latin gematria of 738. And here's a second look at the Latin method, or Agrippa's key, which starts off with the first 23 letters of the classical Latin alphabet and puts the modern English characters at the end. In this method, Kobe Bean Bryant has matching 738 gematria with devil. And if we instead use standard English gematria, it sums to 738 with mark of the beast. This fire in Pacific Palisades broke out a span of exactly 738 months after the release of Ring of Fire, Johnny Cash's compilation album. And remember, the Santa Ana winds are also called the devil winds, right? The devil. And here we see the devil matching 738 gematria with Kobe, like mark of the beast. In fact, if you instead measure from the date the single Ring of Fire was released to Kobe's death, it was just one shy of 20,738 days. Well, maybe toying a little bit with the numbers there, but I thought it was pretty intriguing considering that, obviously Kobe's death was still the big story the following day. Just glancing at the chat, and yeah, I understand these issues are complicated when it comes to wildfires and the logistics of fighting them. Especially when these houses are so up high on the hill. That I can understand a little bit more about the water pressure. Ultimately, it's the winds to blame, and you got to ask, what's causing these winds? I mean, they said that this was possibly the biggest Santa Ana wind event ever. And I thought it was interesting that they said the winds were reaching 100 miles per hour, which is absurd. These are almost hurricane-level winds. Well, notice how the word fire equals 100. And I really don't think that's a coincidence. Recall how Jimmy Carter recently passed away. And Jimmy Carter's funeral was held on the third day of these fires. Well, look how old Carter would have been for his service. 100 years and 100 days old. And just as a little bit of an aside, since I didn't get to mention this in the last video, there's a musician named Alicia Keys. And back in 2012, she released an album called Girl on Fire. This is something Cody has been talking about on his channel recently. And this Girl on Fire riddle is pretty interesting. And I guess the one thing I want to point out about this is how Alicia Keys, her full name also equals 100, Alicia Augello Cook. And a lot of houses certainly got cooked in these fires in Los Angeles. But what about Topanga? Notice how Topanga from Boy Meets World was also born in 1981. And if you measure between their birthdays, we find that they were born exactly 100 days apart. And Topanga showed her fingernails like the fire goddess on WWE Raw. Of course, the Raw logo, the Netflix logo, all very red. The whole arena in Los Angeles was steeped in red. And to be honest, I've never really seen anything like it because Los Angeles has the Intuit Dome, a brand new stadium for the Clippers, probably the least deserving team to have an arena like this. And hopefully I can find a big picture here because when you looked at the crowd during the course of this event, there were red lights on all of these seats. And forgive me for not having an image ready for this, but Those of you who saw the show know, between every chair there was a red light, so the whole arena bathed in that color. And yeah, Topanga equals 74, which was very important because the Pacific Palisades fire began exactly 74 weeks after the Maui blaze, and it was also exactly 74 months after the Camp Fire, which was previously the most damaging fire in the history of California. And then 74 months later, a fire starts near Topanga Canyon. I mean, this stuff really is that absurd. And then Topanga, she marries a guy named Corey Matthews in Boy Meets World. And Corey Matthews reminds us of Matthew Perry, who died in Pacific Palisades. So I know I'm repeating myself a little bit, but this is really what's going on. So back to this devil riddle, right? We're talking about the devil winds. And in the English Kabbalah, which is a cipher first revealed by Aleister Crowley in the early 20th century, the word devil equals 66. And how appropriate is this? In the verse that reveals the number of the beast, they encoded 5 or 4 different phrases that sum to 66. And here we learn the number of the beast, 666. Well, the Los Angeles fire, which surrounded Laurel Canyon. Remember Jim Morrison of The Doors, one of many Los Angeles musicians who lived in the Laurel Canyon neighborhood of LA. Jim Morrison and The Doors famously made the song, "Come On Baby, Light My Fire." Well, don't worry, baby. That fire was lit, all right. But look at how all of these fires are kind of surrounding Laurel Canyon, giving us a ring of fire around the valley, essentially. So both Los Angeles fire and Laurel Canyon equals 66. And the fires began 66 days before the total lunar eclipse that falls on Pi Day, March 14th. The words lunar and eclipse both also equal 66. So there's no way this is just a coincidence. We're talking about a blood moon where the moon turns to red, the color of fire. And 66 days earlier, we get the most destructive fire in Los Angeles history. Shout out Alan mentioning the college football game last night, which, by the way, was won by Notre Dame. Of course, the cathedral at Notre Dame recently reopened after a fire, but he says there were 4 red towers over the stadium there, which I usually like to verify stuff when people say it in the chat, but I'm going to believe that because that's clearly what they've been doing. So this fire that's threatening Calabasas is called the Kenneth Fire. And when I saw the headline, I was a little bit miffed because I spent a little time in Los Angeles when I was younger living there. I don't know what the Kenneth neighborhood is. Maybe someone can correct me and say there's a Kenneth neighborhood or something there that I'm not familiar with, or a hill. But I thought it was strange, right? So there's got to be something more to this. Now, the name Kenneth, and this came from someone in Cody's chat. The name Kenneth means born of fire, which seems pretty interesting. But when you look up Kenneth Fire on Wikipedia, you are instead directed to a politician named Kenneth Fierro. And I looked at this page for a second, and I'm like, come on, Derek. Don't make connections that aren't there. Just because he has a similar name doesn't mean he's connected. However, this guy died in Lafayette, Louisiana, despite spending his entire life in Wyoming. And Louisiana hosts the Super Bowl this year. And this guy dies on November 2nd, or 11/2. Well, the phrase Super Bowl equals 112. So I thought maybe there's more to this. Well, then you consider this guy represented Wyoming and graduated from the University of Wyoming. Well, this brings us back to Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen, who graduated from Wyoming. I actually don't know if he graduated, but he played some good football there. And check out the place he was born. Firebaugh, California. Can you believe that? Firebaugh? How many witnesses did you hear saying it sounded like there were fire bombs going off? Balls of fire ripping through Los Angeles. So when you put these together, it seems like there's some relevance here, right? Kenneth Fierro, the politician, would have been 113 years and 330 days old when the Kenneth Fire broke out. These are numbers connected to Kobe, who died in Calabasas, where the fire is threatening. Eagles, also 113. Don't forget, Kobe Bryant, born in Philadelphia, played his high school basketball in Philadelphia. And he was a big fan of the Eagles. In fact, there's some videos circulating online of him cheering the Eagles on in the Super Bowl back in 2018. 113 is also Johnny Cash's lunation number for his birth. And there's probably a deeper connection here, because when Ring of Fire, Johnny Cash's Best Of album, was released, it came out on July 8th, which just so happens to be the same date the Philadelphia Eagles were founded. 113 is the 30th prime number, and the Eagles were exactly 30 years old for the release of that album. The Wyoming Cowboys, whom Josh Allen played for, just finished their 113th season. Cowboys equals 113. So this got me thinking, wait a minute, there's got to be a riddle with Buffalo Bill, the man the team is named after. And this is lent further credence by the fact that there exists a city in Wyoming that's named after Buffalo Bill. Cody, Wyoming, was named after this guy, as his real last name is Cody. So if the Bills go all the way to the Super Bowl and win it, which deserved a little LOL here on my blog, this would actually give the Bills 509 victories in the history of their franchise. So if we scan down to Buffalo here, we find that they have 505 wins, and they need to win 4 games to win the Super Bowl, which would give them 509. And we're looking at Super Bowl 59. Now, that number 509 is also a prime number, the 97th prime. And that was huge for the Bills. Because remember the big plane crash riddle on the day Carter died? Carter equals 97, like planes where he died, crash, plane crash, Aaron, all 97. The Jets quarterback, Aaron, lost his 97th game on the same day as the crash and Carter's death. Aaron has 97 birth numerology. He was born in Chico, which equals 97. And there were a whole lot more 97s. Well, the reason this is important is because a week before that plane crash, there was another plane crash at the home of a Buffalo Bills player. I mean, what are the chances? Someone crashes into a Bills player's property, and now we get the 97 connection. It's pretty interesting. Now, I'm not picking the Bills, but I'm pointing out there's always many riddles for multiple teams, so bet at your own risk. But how about this? Look where Buffalo Bill died. Bill dies in Denver, Colorado. Well, who do the Bills play this weekend? They play the Denver Broncos. How incredible. So just think about this. We got bills, we got cash. And look at that. Shout out Gregory or was it Gregory? Mama Sari. Sorry, guys. You just pointed this out as I was saying it. There's definitely some kind of cash money riddle here. And, the market's been doing well. Is it due for a correction? I don't usually speculate on the market too much, but it is quite fascinating. Shout out Dr. Savage, who mentioned that Johnny Cash's brother died last year. So I'll have to dig into that probably during this video. Now, the numerical connections between Buffalo Bill, Josh Allen, Calabasas, California are all very strong. And this goes a lot around the number 132, as the fire near Calabasas was 132 days before Allen's birthday, the same number of days separating his birthday from Buffalo Bill's. Now, Buffalo Bill has the same February 26th birthday as Johnny Cash. I mean, what's going on here? Cash, Bills, they got the same birthday? 1 in 365 chance. Well, they were born exactly 1,032 months apart. And 132 is a huge number for the Chiefs, by the way. Kansas City, Missouri, 1302. Kansas City Chiefs, 1032. Andy Reid as the 132. NFL also connecting. Both Matthew Perry's common and full names, 1032. Laurel Canyon, 1320. So I can't say for sure what it all means, but no doubt a meaningful alignment. Josh Allen was also 33 weeks before his birthday, or after his birthday for the Fires. Josh Allen and Cowboys both 33. There's also some skull and bones connections with these men, too. Now, with all of that, let's talk a little bit more about the overarching NFL riddle. Now, I'll never be able to do this justice in about a minute, but I just want to examine quickly how the number 666 is completely synced to Kobe Bryant. And we start with his birthday, the 23rd of August, 23/8. That's the Gematria of 666. In ordinal, it sums to 275. And when Kobe Bryant was exactly a span of 27 years and 5 months old, he played in his 666th game of all time. And that was his best game ever. He scored 81 points in that game. Just like how Kobe being Bryant equals 81 and 810. Kobe Bryant also has something called the 666 workout. And remember, he died in a helicopter, which equals the 666. And then a week after he died, Pat Mahomes won his first Super Bowl. And there's another 666. And, you could really go on. Kobe Bryant. Yeah, I think you guys get the point. I'm already exhausted. So that's what this is all about. And 666, the number of the beast, however, so is the number 616. Back in around 2005 or so, some ancient manuscripts were published suggesting this number is actually 616. And a lot of people hold this belief to this day. Well, we talked about the gap between Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire album and the Ring of Fire in Los Angeles, 738 months. But that same measurement is also 61 years and 6 months. And the number 616 was of great focus in my decode on the Catholic Church. Jim Morrison of The Doors, Pope Francis, all synced up with the number 616. Now, another huge reason these two numbers are connected is because if you go fast, if you forward 666 orbits of the moon from any date, this equates to 616 lunar phases. And what we're looking at here is the difference between a synodic and a sidereal month. Which is a little bit shorter than our typical solar month. 29.5 days for the lunar phase, 27.3 for the sidereal month. And yeah, how strange, 666 and 616. And then you look at the orbital velocity of the Earth, and they listed at 66,616 miles per hour for the Earth. So with that understanding, let's talk about this. So Kobe was an Eagles fan. And notice how close the Eagles are to 666 wins and losses. In fact, if they win 3 games to make the Super Bowl and then lose, they will have a lifetime record of 666 and 666. And I don't know what the odds of this are, but they're not high. The only time the Eagles ever won the Super Bowl was in the year 2018. The book of Revelation equals 218, and the book of Revelation is where Philadelphia gets its name. One of the 7 churches of Revelation. The Eagles are even owned by a man whose name equals 218 in ordinal. Just before the Super Bowl, the Jesuit order turns 6,066 lunar phases old, dating all the way back to 1534. So this is the first time they will have a 666 in their lunar age. 666, the gematria of mathematics of the circle and mathematical perfection. And this all ties into the Pi Day eclipse that I'll be talking about shortly. Now, if you add up all of these base ciphers in Gematria and write out Philadelphia Eagles, look at this sum. All 4 of these numbers add up to 666. The head coach of the Eagles is Nicholas John Sirianni, whose full name equals 666. Not only that, his full name also has matching gematria with 666, 1197 Latin, and 4860 in both reduction ciphers. So what a perfect coach, if indeed he does lead his team to that record. Now, on the date of the Super Bowl, Sirianni will be exactly 540 lunar phases old. Now, since 12 lunar phases is officially 1 lunar year, this means it's also Sirianni's 45th lunar birthday. And this provides a very intriguing alignment because 45 and 54 are very closely linked in Gematria. Both of the numbers both sum to 45 and 54, but so does the number 59, which is the number of this year's Super Bowl. Kobe Bryant and Mark of the Beast, both 54, like Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And yes, Sirianni, same birthday as Donald Trump. You got that. 35 years apart. As far as the 45, Mark of the Beast, Johnny Cash, Kobe Bryant also with some 45 connections. So this is an alarming alignment. And hey, again, this all could be just here to mislead you. But the fact that these alignments even exist is fascinating enough. So the phrase Pi Day eclipse sums to 666. And of course it does, right? The number 33 equals 66 and 60. And this year's Super Bowl falls 33 days before the Pi Day eclipse. Lunar equals 33. So does eclipse 33 in reduction. Now, when you look at Kobe Bryant's age for his 666th game, and I got to be careful about how many times I say this number out loud, or I'm going to look over my shoulder, make sure I'm still the only one in the room here. But on that date, Kobe Bryant was exactly 329 months old. And this is an important number. The National Basketball Association equals 329. So does the phrase ritual human sacrifice. And Kobe, the ultimate NBA sacrifice. Well, on the date of the Pi Day eclipse, the Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts will be exactly 329 lunar phases old. Exactly. That eclipse is also 329 days after Johnny Cash's birthday. Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire came out 3,209 weeks before the Ring of Fire around Los Angeles. And here's another interesting one. Pi equals 16 and 3.14 equals 98. These are the numbers found in the Society of Jesus, which uses a circle as their emblem. 1698. Well, Kobe Bryant was born 16,980 days after Johnny Cash. So this, to me, just cements that this has been scripted all along. So back to the Eagles, because we're not done with this circle riddle. Earlier we saw how this phrase sums to the 666, but it also has double gematria of 99, whether you use English or Latin reduction. And 9 plus 9 has the same sum as 6 plus 6 plus 6. So these numbers are connected, but particularly through the circle. Now, for this year's halftime show, the NFL will be pulling in musician Kendrick Lamar. And how weird is this? Kendrick Lamar was exactly 99 months old when Patrick Mahomes was born on the anniversary of the National Football League. Oh, interesting. Yeah, the Hearst fire is one of the fires in Los Angeles. Just one letter off of Hertz. Thank you, John. That's a great observation. You know, I'm so buried in the numbers sometimes. I miss stuff like that always. So, good point. But look at 99, right? This is the number found in the gematria of both of these men. Patrick LaVon Mahomes II and Kendrick Lamar Duckworth. Johnny Cash also with the 990. And these two guys born exactly 99 months apart. Mahomes' coach, Andy Reid, has 99 birth numerology, and his full name equals 99. In fact, Mahomes' full name matches mathematics of the circle in other methods through the number 126. And 126 is, of course, the date Kobe died. Nick Sirianni was born 1,026 days after Kobe, and he'll be 126 days before his birthday for the Super Bowl. Some interesting 126 alignments in gematria here. But remember, there's other alignments with the AFC as well. Look at Lamar Jackson's age for the Super Bowl, 10,260 days. Josh Allen, 1260 in squares. We know he's connected to this riddle. So could this just be pointing to him instead? And again, I'd love to tell you one of these riddles is stronger than the others. But I don't want to come back after I'm wrong and tell you, hey, you know, there was also this going on too. So Mahomes and Hurts, you know, they already played in one Super Bowl against each other. Super Bowl 57 2 years ago. They were born 1,056 days apart, which we find in Super Bowl 59, right? 156, a huge eclipse number. We're talking about the Pi Day eclipse. Also connected to 666, right? Johnny Cash, the Man in Black, 156. So this could be meaningful. I guess we'll see. But we know the Super Bowl is a pi riddle because just look at the gematria of pi. 29 and 25. And the Super Bowl is played on 2/9 of 25. The word circles equals 33, and the Super Bowl falls 33 days before the eclipse, as I mentioned. Not only that, but the wildfires in Los Angeles broke out 33 days before the Super Bowl. So you get that double 33 connection. From LA fires to the Super Bowl in Louisiana or LA to the lunar eclipse. So the word eclipse has that 314 gematria. And when you measure between the birthdays of Kendrick Lamar and Patrick Mahomes, not only do you get the 99 months that we saw earlier, but this same exact duration is also 3,014 days. Jalen Hurts, meanwhile, was born 314 days before Lamar's birthday. So with all of the pi riddling going on, how is this even possible with these guys? Maybe they're playing a trick on us to make us think this will be the Super Bowl. But it would be a big alignment to waste, wouldn't it? Now, one of the big reasons that the number 223 and 322 are so important. Of course, we know about this with the Skull and Bones code, right? The 322. Well, 223 is an eclipse number because there are 223 lunar phases between eclipses of the same Saros cycle. And how interesting that 223 and 322 are the first two numbers with ordinal gematria of 314, connecting to the circle code and pi. Well, the word circle also has gematria of 223 and 322. Mathematics of the circle with 322. Jalen Hurts plays for Philadelphia, 223. We had the Kenneth Fire, which also attributes both of those numbers. But could it be the Chiefs? 223 and 322. When Kendrick Lamar was born, Kobe Bryant was 3,220 days old. And then Kobe died 32 years, 223 days after Kendrick Lamar was born. Kendrick was also born 3 months and 22 days after the anniversary of Cash's birthday. The full names of the Chiefs and Eagles equal 322. And I do think that there is a significant Yale riddle in this Super Bowl. And it's pretty simple, right? Because as I've been documenting for years now, Yale turned 322 years old in 2023. And if you measure from that highly important anniversary to the Super Bowl, you get exactly 16 months. Yale equals 16, just like pi. When you write out 322 and 223, they both equal 106. Order of the Skull and Bones and Skull and Crossbones both equal 263. I know I'm doing a long video when I start to burp before I can get these words out. But the 263 connects Matthew Perry to the Super Bowl. And Patrick Mahomes has the same measurement to both Matthew Perry and his coach, Andy Reid. Andy Reid has that same measurement to Johnny Cash. And Kobe Bryant has that same measurement to the Super Bowl, which is also 322 lunar phases, which is a connection that Mahomes shares with Matthew Perry. These two teams also add up to 187, like Brotherhood of Death. Very similar to the number of days between Johnny Cash's and Nick Sirianni's birthday. We also get a 572 in the number of weeks, which brings us to Skull and Bones. Kendrick Lamar has a juicy Skull and Bones number for the Super Bowl. And Sirianni equals 278, and he'll be 2,278 weeks old for the game. Thank you, Little Flower. I appreciate your comments throughout this stream. And maybe next time I'll just let the burp all out and hold nothing back. Because if you guys like what I'm saying, maybe you'll... Never mind. Anyway, moving on. So what I also noticed is that this Super Bowl falls 1 month and 5 days before the Pi Day eclipse. Now, the number 15 seems to be pretty significant here as well. We start with Matthew Perry, who was born on a 1/15 date. This year's Super Bowl in New Orleans, Louisiana, which equals 1/15. And the game is held 1 year, 105 days after he died. Now, our current NFL season is the 105th NFL season. So it would make sense that Matthew Langford Perry, who again died 105 days before the date of this game, would be synced up to this season because his full name equals 105. In fact, when Ring of Fire was released, it was on a date with 105 numerology. Sirianni with this number in his age for Kobe's death. And I talked about 15 last week because the Catholic Church, on the date 1/5, which had 15 numerology, they opened the fifth door, and 15 is the fifth triangular number. Both Philadelphia Eagles and the Philadelphia Eagles yield a 15 in Gematria. Johnny Cash and Matthew Perry dead 1,050 weeks apart. I don't know if this matters, but there's that number again. The Super Bowl is also 150 days after the anniversary of Johnny Cash's death. But we're also going to look at the Ravens. Now, as I mentioned at the top of this video, I did an incredible mega post showing the Ravens' numerology connecting them to Super Bowl 59 last year. And I just want to touch on some more of that. And we start with the coach, John Harbaugh, who could be playing in Super Bowl 59 in the 105th season. His name equals 59 and 1005. His full name also 105. And this connection with the Ravens is cemented through Lamar Jackson. Now, we mentioned how a man named Kendrick Lamar will be performing the halftime show at the Super Bowl. Is it really possible that Lamar Jackson will be playing in the game as well? Well, Lamar Jackson was born on January 7th. That's the same date that the Pacific Palisades fire began. In fact, Los Angeles fire has Gematria of 1997, which is the year that Lamar Jackson was born. What's up, Casey? Casey Jones Astrology, friend of the channel. We are going to be looking at Johnny Cash's brother. Dr. Savage mentioned that he died last year, so we're definitely going to take a glance at that. So this fire that surrounded Laurel Canyon, which equals 280, started on Lamar Jackson's 28th birthday. And again, Baltimore is home to the oldest archdiocese in the United States for the Catholic Church. Back in the year 2019, was it? Lamar Jackson was gifted a jersey by Pope Francis. Actually, Lamar Jackson gave the Pope a signed Ravens jersey. But this is just to demonstrate that the Ravens have always been connected to the Catholic Church. Now, in my Catholic decode, I talked about perfect numbers, and 28 is one of the very few perfect numbers. And the 28th prime number is 107, like the date January 7th when it all started. In fact, it started exactly 17 lunar phases after Matthew Perry died. Recall this Ring of Fire 107. The Ring of Fire started 107 days after Lamar's coach's birthday, John Harbaugh. But perhaps the biggest clue is Patrick Mahomes' age for the Super Bowl. We talked about the numbers 107 and 738, and both of those three-digit numbers are found in Patrick's age for the Super Bowl, 10738. His coach Sirianni's is 738, and the game is being played at the Caesars Superdome, which gives us the 738. So if you missed the early part of my video, that's the gematria of Kobe Bryant and Devil, just like Mark of the Beast as well. And the Ring of Fire in LA started exactly 738 months after the album Ring of Fire was released. Also, Notre Dame equals 738, the cathedral that went ablaze in 2019, the same year that Lamar Jackson gifted the Pope his jersey. And Notre Dame is playing in the college football championship game. What do you know? What a coinkydink. Oh, one of the big 666 connections I forgot to mention earlier is that Kobe died 14 years and 4 days after his 666 game, and 144 is both number of the beast and mark of the beast. Kobe was exactly 172 mercurial years old when he died. That's the ordinal gematria of Kansas City Chiefs and Matthew Perry. Kendrick Lamar also 172. And I point the Mercury riddle out because if you watch my videos on Jaden Ivey, you'll see how a huge mercurial riddle played out on January 1st. And then I actually picked up on another mercurial riddle for January 1st with the death of Wayne Osmond, a member of the Osmonds. And his death, this guy grew up a Mormon, which equals 88. He was 880 months old. He died 808 mercurial years after the Mormon Church was founded. His full name is 88. He died of a stroke 88. And he died on the same day as the mercurial riddle with Jaden Ivey. And guys, I'm a little disappointed in the view count for this, 720. I know a lot of you know that we live in some sort of numerical superstructure with a creator. But if you don't believe that, watch this video. Because this proves that numerology is playing out organically. And I actually got a couple comments on this video telling me this guy didn't really break his leg. But that's a lie, because you can break it down frame by frame and see where his leg breaks. And no, I do not believe someone can intentionally break their leg. It's just not in the human wiring to do that. Anyway, Mercury, right? That's the big Kobe Bryant connection with the Kansas City Chiefs and Matthew Perry. But isn't it interesting, too, that the fires began on 1/7/25, and 17 years and 25 days is what separates Kobe Bryant and Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes will be exactly 393 sidereal months old for the Super Bowl? Does that mean he'll be playing against the Philadelphia Eagles, 393? Kobe died 3 years, 9 months, and 3 days before Matthew Perry. Now, I have some more notes connected to pi, or 3.14, all through the number 888, because Kobe died 888 days after the Great American Eclipse, on the same day as the Royal Rumble, which equals 88. And yeah, that was the 33rd Royal Rumble, by the way, matching Kobe. The Eagles and Chiefs coaches have a 888 in the days between their birthdays. Mahomes had a 888 in his age when Kobe died, connecting to Super Bowl 59 in Kansas City. But John Harbaugh has an interesting mercurial riddle as well for the Super Bowl, because he'll be exactly 259 mercurial years old, whereas the Palisades fire began 259 days before his birthday. And when you write out 259, it's one of the very few numbers that sum to itself. So yeah, at this point in the video, we are definitely looking for air in the rabbit hole, right? And I don't want to throw too many names and people and stuff at you, but you got to understand that the NFL rigs several teams to have remarkable riddles as the season gets closer and closer to the end. And this is even true for myself, but when I go out and say, hey, I picked the winner using numbers, there's a good chance I was lucky too. If you want to learn about more about my methodology on picking games, and I don't pick games often. I bet maybe once a month when the NFL season is active. But watch my video on the Bears and Packers game, where I bet against my home team to lose. And I was right. In the first Packer game, I also bet on the Packers to lose because of this video, and I was right there too. Now, it's interesting that Love and Hurts will be matching up again in the playoffs. Someone sent me a big decode on the Packers winning the Super Bowl this year. I think that's very far-fetched. But you never know. If you want more on my methodology for picking games, watch my Superstream 75, which is about the Kentucky Derby, where I picked an 18-1 winner to win this year. And some of you won't like my methodology because it's not simple. There's no formula to it. It's about paying attention to the world at large and understanding how synchronicity works. And when you have a firm grasp on that, these riddles fall into place a lot more apparently. And these methods are what I used for my Formula One betting this season. And I want to quickly show you, before I finish up on the NFL here, I want to show you my record for F1 betting this year. And again, I'm not selling picks. My money is made from the website, from memberships and ads on there. So I gain nothing by, telling you guys how this works. And at the same time, again, I'm not even really for legal sports betting. I think it's pretty stupid, especially when you consider there's a lot better ways to gamble out there. But again, this doesn't just apply to sports, it applies to news stories too. So when you understand synchronicity, things fall into place. So for F1 this year, I bet on 6 different races, and I picked a winner in I bet on 11, and I picked a winner in 6 of them. Now, I ran simulations on how likely this is, and I would have finished top 0.16 percentile. So that's like if you take 700 bettors, I was the best out of that 700 on average. And notice how there's 6 different winners that I picked. And I don't know if this Nas guy in the chat is trolling or not, but I have videos. I have a Formula 1 2024 playlist. And I explain before the races why I picked some of those winners. So, I mean, I don't know how you can get much better than this. No, dummy, I do bet sports. And these are the bets I made. And if you average this out, it's an average of multiplying your money by 4 times per race. So this is absurd. You would have actually done better picking random winners of the race than using the odds, but still. To me, this is as solid proof as you'll ever get, because I know nothing about Formula 1. I just started following the sport this year. And this is how well I did. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen again next year. It's highly unlikely. But this can show you how numbers can be used to pick sports. I just think the methodology a lot of people using is a little bit too convoluted. Anyway, let's look back at the NFL. Because this is what this video is about. It's not about me patting myself on my back. Although, I do want to do that from time to time. So just let me give you an idea of what could theoretically play out this NFL postseason. Now, I mentioned that the Chicago Bears, home to the 60606 area code, finished the season with 666 losses. In the first round of the playoffs, the Commanders go to Tampa Bay. And notice how the Commanders just need 2 more wins to get to that 666. So let's say they do beat Tampa Bay and then potentially move on to Detroit. Well, Detroit is sitting on 615 wins. So this means we could have one team going for their 666th and the next team going for their 616th. And these are the 2 numbers of the beast. So let's say Detroit wins and gets their 616th. Well, theoretically, they could play Philadelphia, and Philadelphia could get their 666th win, keeping Detroit on 616. And then Philadelphia could go to the Super Bowl and lose their 666th game. Isn't this outrageous? Now, that might not be what happens, right? I mean, they know that people like me are watching these numbers and seeing how this stuff falls into place. But, you know, there's no other teams close to that 666 number, as we can see, at least not in the playoffs. The playoffs are the yellow teams, by the way. Now, looking again at the total win tallies, here we see the Bills could get 509 in Super Bowl 59. Baltimore could also get their 289th win. And this was a number we threw around with the Fires a little bit. Matthew Perry would have been exactly 2,890 weeks old for the Fires, for instance. And this is 17 squared. And the Fires began on 1-7. So again, Baltimore looks strong with the numbers as well. These top 3 seeds all are kicking hard. Is Detroit going to make the Super Bowl? I mean, you know, they suffered so many injuries as the year piled on. Aiden Hutchinson suffered a big one, and I don't think he'll be back. So really, Philadelphia looks the strongest, and I definitely spent the most time on the Eagles. But remember, guys, the Rams are in the playoffs. They're in Los Angeles, so that might be relevant. But as far as the win totals go, all the most interesting ones I went over. Oh, okay, so let's also talk about this, right? Let's say the top 2 seeds in the NFC, the Lions and Eagles, play for the NFC Championship, right? Let's say that's the case. Well, there's a very fascinating connection. Let's dig this up, bring the browser back up for you. So if you look up all of the past games between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Detroit Lions, we find that they played each other in the playoffs once before, okay? Only once have these two teams met in the playoffs. And look at this absurd score, 58-37. What's going on with the numbers here, guys? 58-37. So you're telling me these two teams tally a score of 95 total points during the last weekend of the 95 NFL season? Well, what number equals 95? 666 equals 95 and 905, right? By the way, the Bills coach would get his 95th win in the Super Bowl, if you're onto that part. But check this out. If you write out 666, you get this value of 294 with the and included. This is the same as 603 score and 6 with the ampersand, 294. Now, if you measure from this game, when these teams last played, to the date of this year's NFC Championship game, it's a span of exactly 29 years and 4 weeks. 294. Now, 294. Oh, this is an interesting one. Hey, Notre Dame. In multiple ciphers, Notre Dame equals 294. In standard gematria, Josh Allen, 294. Or could they instead be playing Kansas City? They got the 294. Eagles, 294. What about Patrick LaVon Mahomes II? Oh, without the second, I suppose. Another 294. And a 429 for good measure. Same digits. So I don't know, man. When I look back in time and see how this game and this score is connected to the 666, and then you see the measurement to the NFC title game is also the same thing, I don't know. It really feels like the numbers are lining up for this matchup. And again, not the craziest prediction. These are the top two seeds. So, again, I apologize if I made you a little bit dizzy with this video. But again, I'm for chasing the truth, right? And, you know, I don't have superpowers. Sometimes I see connections that others make, and I'm thinking, wow, how did I not realize that, right? Exactly. So who should I bet on? But here's the trick, guys. What if I tell you my pick? And what if everybody puts all their money on parlays that makes that pick happen? Do you think any alarm bells are going to go off? If you believe these games are rigged, then you also must believe that these games can be changed at any given time. So, you know, again, I don't sell sports picks. That's not where I make my money. For me to go out and tell you guys who to bet for feels disingenuous. I did put money on the game. I think you should be able to tell who I bet on based on my decode. But if you guys find numbers you think are stronger, then go ahead and put money on them. It doesn't affect me. Again, sports betting is a pit. I mean, 3% of people make a profit in sports betting. And there's a lot of people online who will happily tell you they made money and how much they made. I mean, shit, I just did it earlier, right? But it's almost never true that they're actually winning. And if they did win, they probably lost all their money a few times first. So if you want to get rich, you know, find a great skill that people can use. That's my philosophy. I just do the sports stuff for fun. Because, you know, I know what's going on with these games. The allure of finding out who's the better team is gone for me. I'm more interested to see which riddles they chose and how those riddles manifest. So again, it's not what people want to hear. You know, they want people telling them what the future is going to be. And I'm telling you guys, it's not that simple. And I never set out to bet on sports. But it wasn't until Formula One came along, I'm following the F1 season, and I'm starting to realize this actually seems pretty simple. And sure enough, I won 6 of 11 races, which was awesome. And I have plenty of videos in that playlist where it's proof that I make the picks before the race. So it's on you guys to do some of the work too, you know? You're not going to get some oracle sent from God coming down and telling you the future in every sports game. If that's your idea of reality, get over it, okay? So I hope my philosophy resonates with at least most of you. Because, you know, sports gambling became legalized for a reason. It's fattening up the rich. It's another tax on the poor, okay? But if you're going to make bets, then you should also be educated with the numbers too, right? Because the numbers never do lie. All right, guys. I think I'm going to cut the video there. Turned out to be a little bit longer than I was hoping, but that's okay. We covered an absolute ton. And I'm glad I got this out of the way because everyone always asks for my Super Bowl decodes when the playoffs start. And, you know, I don't know how much more we're going to uncover before the Super Bowl that's more fascinating than what I laid out here today. But I look forward to more riddles appearing because absolutely, we're going to see more clues as the game nears. So with that, thanks to everybody who made the live chat lively. Up until near the end here when we got spammed. That's okay. There's related videos down in the description below if you want to find out more. I'm also going to go ahead and link Cody's channel. I've been appearing on there over the past couple months, and I think our collaborations are really cool. Cody has more of a mind for the symbolic, mythological take on items in the news. My brain is drilled down more in the numbers, the granular, you know, mathematical side of it. And I think what we're doing is really cool. I know you guys want my bet. I'm not going to say it, sorry. Like I said, if you watched that decode, you would have noticed who was mentioned the most out of all these teams. So, I'll leave it at that. Peace. Love, God bless. We'll talk to y'all next time. See ya.